Okay, I move to open the meeting.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. We open the meeting. I need to have that affirmed by everyone, as I recall. Mark? Oh, Mark's
You're
not a
not
member.
on anymore,
That's not
remember?
a member.
Don?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, Don.
Bethany?
Don.
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Who else is here? My screen, Larice here?
I'm here.
Larice?
Yes.
Oh, hi, Larice.
Hi.
Mr. Chair, Bob Desmond is here as well.
Bob?
Yes.
Okay, the meeting is started. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you.
Glad to have you aboard. Call to order. We've done that. Amendments to CPC meeting.
Yep. Let me take over. First, I just wanted to welcome Bob Desmond as our newest member from the Stoughton Redevelopment Authority. Bob, hearty welcome to you, and glad you're aboard, and look forward to working with you.
Thank you. I appreciate
Hi,
that.
Bob.
Look forward to working with
You got
both
some big
people.
shoes to fill here, Bob.
Absolutely.
All right, so there's two main items on the agenda. The first is the town finance director, who I don't believe is here. She's invited, and I expected her, but she's not here. Had sent around an email to all the proponents of articles, not just the CPC, but anyone who proposed an article for spending for a particular project. And they wanted to add the phrase, in fact, let me just pull one up so I can make sure I get this right. Hang on a moment. Just bear with me. Okay, they were wanting to add the phrase exempt from Article 70, ATM, May 1, 2023 sunset bylaw. And the reason for that is apparently between the Attorney General when it approved the sunset bylaw last year and late breaking advice from bond counsel and a financial advisor, there were concerns whether the bylaw would apply to this year's articles. It would, unless it was exempted. And there were some issues with that, which potentially could have delayed or prohibited funding to those articles. Let me, if I could, and I didn't send this out, but I want to find it and put it up for everyone just so we're all on the same page. Hang on a moment. Somebody's trying to join the meeting and I'm trying to figure out who it is. No, okay.
Somebody good in.
Oh, okay, good. Here's Biz now.
Looks like she's muted.
Yep. Biz, welcome to the meeting. I was just starting to explain the email you had sent out to everyone who had projects on this year's town meeting warrant, advising them to add a phrase to the motion, which would exempt the article from the sunset bylaw. And I was just about to explain it, but I think you could probably do a better job of that than I can.
Can you hear us, Biz?
She may be muted. Hang on a moment.
It looks like she is muted.
Okay, how about that?
Now
now
we can
we can
hear
hear
you.
you.
There you go. Now we can hear and see you.
Okay, I'm going to disconnect with the phone. I tried to get in earlier, but I couldn't get in. So with the caveat that we're putting in to exempt from the Article 70, May 6, 2023, is because of the restrictions from that bylaw. That bylaw is pretty specific that any articles under $250,000 you have to go and have them reauthorized at town meeting if they are not completed, not started, but completed. And that's some of the problems that we're having right now. And then anything over $250,000, I don't have it in front of me. I believe it's a 4-year with a 1-year extension.
Yes.
So the reason we're doing this right now is to protect the integrity of the projects that you have at this town meeting. There is a large project I'm working on, which is to reconcile every single open project. And as I had discussed earlier, I believe it was with Mike and Mark and Barry at one point, is you have project close forms that you send over to the accounting office, and they have to be closed via town meeting. So I think there's an assumption that they were just automatically being closed. However, they weren't. So I'm compiling a list right now of all the projects outstanding, what may have to be renewed at town meeting and or through the select board. My biggest concern right now, you have some really big projects that went out through borrowing that go back to like 2015, and they have exceeded that sunset loss. So I have a lot of work I'm trying to do, but like I said, I'm trying to protect the integrity. It's not to supersede the bylaw. The petitioner, we did speak to the petitioner. He understood the situation that we've been put in. So we're working to modify that bylaw to change it so we can actually still continue to do the work, but have a review and approval process in place. So that's the reason for the caveat.
If I could add on to that.
Barry, I can't hear you.
Oh, okay, hold on. Let me turn myself up.
I can't hear anybody.
Okay,
You guys
Barry is
can't-
coming through fine.
Turn your volume up.
Can't hear
Because
any
yeah,
of you. Hold on, I got it.
Okay, is that better?
Mine up. Okay.
Is that
Now
better,
we can
Biz?
hear you. You're muted, Biz, now.
All right, so what I was going to add was that we have two, what I would consider questionable interpretations of that bylaw. And people can disagree with me. This is my take on it. The Attorney General, when she approved the bylaw, looked at the law as if it applied. The way it would apply is that unless town meeting took a specific action, returning the funds to the CPA fund, the funds would go back into the general fund.
Yeah.
And that would definitely be a problem for us because number one, I think would violate the Community Preservation Act to do that. And number two, it's obviously not what we intend. And if I could just add, it doesn't say that in the bylaw. So I really don't know where that came from. The second interpretation that I personally have a problem with is that, as Biz just mentioned, that the bylaw may apply retroactively. And again, I'm not sure whether that, I mean, typically laws, as far as I know, don't apply retroactively. Certainly criminal laws don't apply retroactively. But I'll leave that to smarter people and people who have law degrees to figure out. But my point is, here we have two, what I would call questionable interpretations of the bylaw, which if we don't exempt our new articles to this year, they will be subject to. The third thing they would be subject to, which I find for this committee probably less than desirable, is that they would be subject to, they could be extended by going back to the select board. We on the CPC have our own internal sunset, which is contained in the grant agreement. And that requires that after 3 years, a project comes back to us for renewal. If one of our new articles passed this year without being exempted from the sunset bylaw, not only would they have to come back to us, but they'd also have to go back to the select board to get their renewal. And so I'm trying to avoid that having to happen. So I think just to, as Biz says, to preserve the integrity of the articles that we are recommending this year, I would recommend that we add the language, the one line that I just added, that it's exempt from the sunset bylaw to all of our articles. And
If I can clarify, This is not going to affect the ones that we have out there that there are questions, which I assume maybe Cape Reynolds, ones that are out there for big trucks. There's nothing that we're gonna vote on tonight or can do that will affect whether they can claw that back, correct?
Correct.
We are
No.
simply amending tonight's articles so that in the future, these will be protected from said whatever, correct?
I have a question, if I may. What happens if we extend? Do we have to go back to town meeting? Or can we, as a CPC, extend without a town meeting vote?
If we exempt these articles this year from Article 7, the sunset bylaw, then they would have to come back to us. They would not have to go to town meeting or the select board. I cannot speak to any articles from previous years. I think that's still being worked on. That's something we can
really
do
what
tonight.
my question went to the articles from previous years. If someone comes back to us and asks for an extension, do we have to go back to town meeting?
That is what we're working on right now. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I can, yeah.
Okay, so that's what we're working on right now because we did notice some irregularities in that bylaw. So right now, like I said, I have an extensive project that I'm working on, not just with the CPC articles, but other articles that we're working on as far as where do we get the funding from? Was it borrowing? Was it, oh no, can you guys still see me?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, my computer just did something weird. So we want to make sure that we have everything, and with this, there's going to be a listing that's going out to all of you, and it's all going out to legal as well. I'm dealing with the financial part of it, what we think is sunsetting, and then we'll decide, okay, these need to go back to town meeting. We still want to close articles, and the articles we want to close, they have to go back to town meeting because that's how they were opened. So that's how we will do this. And it's going to take a little bit of time to get there. I've been working on this since it came up about a week and a half ago. So with town meeting and everything else we're doing, it's going to be, let's have a little bit of patience. And the most urgent thing is let's deal with what we have going on at this town meeting, and we'll work on the other ones as we go forward. At this point in time, no projects are going to be shut down because we can't, we have certain obligations that we have to meet, but there may be more in-depth data that we'll need from various departments to get this moving forward. And town meeting voted it to begin with. I can't see town meeting not voting it to continue. So we have a little bit of work to do.
Right. And if I could just add to that, all of our projects that have an internal sunset, that was a policy we just instituted last year. So we have some time before any of those projects are coming up on our own internal sunset. They will not be coming up this year or next year, not till the year after.
Right. I think when
Sorry, let me figure that again. They won't be this year. No, they'll be 2 years from now.
we're going back, believing that the sunset clause is going to impact anything from fiscal year 2020 backwards. So anything back from 2020 could be an issue. So we want to definitely make sure that this is straightened out. We don't have any hiccups in the projects.
Right. I see two hands are up. Mark Semanian had his hand up first.
Mr. Chair, if I might, I'd like to give the committee a little background as to why we're here. So this came to Michael, myself, and Barry Kassler via email. This committee, prior to this meeting, voted those articles as they were written in the motions. This was an amendment to those motions, and I did not feel it was my place or Barry's place or Michael's alone to make the decision to allow the amendment. So one of my primary concerns was to preserve what the CPC had done originally. We collectively reached out to the chair, Dwight, and Dwight agreed that holding this meeting was important. Initially, I could not understand the point of this. It seems the language legally seems to continually get more confusing, and I don't think tonight is about worrying about that. I think tonight is about focusing on protecting the articles we have on the table this year, or the CDC has on the table this year. Furthermore, collectively, we couldn't figure out any reason why the sunset bylaw or being exempt from it would hurt the CPC overall. So there was some concern about what they were saying at town meeting, but it is my belief, and that's all you have to work on, and Michael's and Barry's, that to allow the amendment wouldn't hurt the articles. However, we didn't feel it was our choice. It's this body's choice. So I appreciate your time, Mr. Chair, for allowing me to give a little background on that.
And I concur. My concern, I'm seeing to me tonight, based on what Mark said, and my feelings are that we will probably okay these bingo. But my concern is to ones in the past, should they apply retroactively? That's a concern, but I don't think there's anything we can do about that tonight, other than express our concern that, we allotted the money, and that something like Cape Reynolds taking their bid as we speak. I mean, if that process were to be somehow attempted to be shut off because of the sunset law, we'd have other problems, and we'd respond to them at future meetings. So, anybody have anything else to say on the motion to
Michael,
Yeah, yes. Take that one step further. And I agree with everything I've heard tonight. And I was actually happy to see Biz shaking her head in favor of, as Barry was talking about, some of the concerns that we had discussed prior to tonight, that we felt the whole committee should have an opportunity to be on the same page. I'm absolutely the same concern with any prior projects. I don't know that there's anything we can do, but address it, as Biz is trying to do, with its bond counsel, it's the AG, it's a bunch of people involved, and I think that adds to the confusion. But we were trying to clean up some of those projects anyway. We never knew, no one's ever suggested to us that we had to go back to town meeting. We put in our own closing process just so that we could draw a line in the sand and say, hey, this is done, we're moving on. So I fully support the effort that Biz is going to do, and I will work with her. Biz and I have been trying to reconcile some of those projects with a bunch of other questions that I know she hasn't gotten to some of that because of all of this in town meeting, and the fact that she's still brand new in her job for us. So yeah, we will address the prior stuff, but certainly for this year's project, the safest bet is let's include the clause. We got a taste of it at the first night of town meeting, and people seem to understand it. It was good that, as Biz said, the petitioner got called to the floor, the original petitioner from last year's article, and understood. I mean, I don't know that anyone's happy, but we can fix it. I mean, it's all we can do going forward, but at least this will save this year's projects from being a problem in a couple of years.
other comments from the board? Other comments from the audience? So Barry, if you could read to us the what we will be voting on, the amendment, that would be helpful.
Yep. Hang on a moment. Okay, this would add to what I'd like to do. We're going to be looking at the Hebrew Senior Life article separately. So I'd like to consider that separately. So this would be for Articles 38 for the town-owned barn, 39 for the historic signage, 40 for the Stoughton Youth Baseball Elm Street Field Complex, 41 for the renovation of Mark Fields under Stolax, 42 for the Stoughton Motel conversion under Father Bill's Mainspring, and Article 43, which is the entryway improvements to the Bird Street Conservation Area. We would be adding the phrase exempt from Article 70 ATM May 1, 2023 sunset bylaw.
So do you want to have one motion do all of them, or we got to do each one separately?
I would go with one motion for all of the ones Barry just read, and we'll deal with HSL separately because that's changing.
Yeah, well, I would second that motion, and the
I'll
motion
make the
is,
motion and John
Yeah.
seconded it.
and that motion is to add that language to those
Yeah,
articles.
to the specific language to the specific articles that Barry read off.
That's
Okay,
correct.
the
And I second that.
been made and seconded. I will now poll the people that I can recognize here. Michael,
Yes,
John,
Yes,
Olabandi,
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Who else am I not seeing? on the
Bob
screen here?
Desmond.
Bob,
Yes.
Don Brady?
yes,
Don,
yes.
is that
And it's-
everyone?
Clarice?
Except for the chair.
Did you get Michael Barrett?
Yes, he did.
And Larice?
She voted yes.
Okay, all
And
right,
Dwight, your own vote.
Right, and I vote yes. So
okay,
So
motion has been,
unanimous.
all right. Well, thank you, Biz. I know you have a
Thank you.
busy schedule and I appreciate you joining us to help us clear this up, and hopefully moving forward, we'll be good partners for you to get this all done.
And Biz,
I'll-
anything you need from us, I mean,
Could
Once I
we-
have the
call in.
analysis done, I'm gonna, no decisions will be made without your involvement. So it's not as though I'm gonna take things and go straight to the selectmen or straight to the town meeting avenue. This is under your guise, but we'll work together to make sure we can,
absolutely. And at the
we
same
can
time,
make everything work.
Yep.
we
Before
may
you go,
need to look at our own sunset policy and institute a closing policy that fits into what Biz needs for the town. I mean, that's not a
Right.
problem going forward, just
Yeah.
there was the immediate crisis of this year's articles.
right,
Right, and
Mark
when-
has his hand up. I just
Yeah.
wanted,
Mr. Chair, through you, I don't want Biz to go right away because we still have the Hebrew Senior Life project that we have to deal with, and that it does have a different set of circumstances. So I just didn't want Biz to go away. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
got it. Well, I think we are ready to move on to that topic. Barry?
yep, well, Hebrew Senior Life has decided, based on the feedback that they've gotten from the town and from others, to reduce the size of the project, basically to reduce it by half. So instead of 200 units, there would be approximately 100 units. Instead of 6 stories in each building, there'll be 3 stories in each building. So this would also reduce the amount that they're asking from us. They're basically reducing the amount they're asking for to what they used to consider phase 1. So we're now looking at a request for $1.3 million for approximately 100 units. They don't have the exact amount pinned down, but it's going to be, within 5 units of 100. So I did send a revised application to everyone. I've been following along the project's progress. Certainly has been some opposition among a certain group of people. And there's been some issues that have been raised at the ZBA. So in response to that, mainly in response to some of the things that came up at the ZBA, they've decided to reduce the project in half.
Is it relevant for us to know what the ZBA concerns were? Or,
The ZBA concerns were mainly with height and parking, I believe.
well,
So this was before the project had been reduced.
it seems like whether or not I agree with it, in their opinion, they want to have the size of the project, and that's what they're asking for, and it,
Well, the ZBA isn't specifically asking for the project to be
oh,
reduced.
no, the project has, based on the feedback they've gotten and which way the wind is blowing, decided to have the project, basically.
Right. The ZBA continued their hearing till June 20th, I believe. It's sometime later in June. So they haven't made any decisions. They haven't really given any verbal feedback to the applicant.
But Hebrew Senior Life has decided in the interim to make this move here that we are voting on tonight, correct? So,
Deb, do you want to weigh in on that? And so that we're not putting words into,
Yes, thank you, and thank you, Barry, for bringing this up. We have received feedback just early feedback from the DBA, because Barry Katz is right, they haven't fully weighed in on this, but we've received a lot of feedback from town meeting members and others at a variety of meetings we've been at. One basket of the feedback focused on the height of the building. Some of the other feedback are things that we can't necessarily address. And so we thought, let us just look at the height of the building. This is a big concern for people. So we did, we made a decision to request that we cut the program in half. So we go from a 6-story to a 3-story building. We think that would get a better reception at town meeting. So the project won't ever get to the ZBA if we're voted down at town meeting. The project will be over. And so anything that we can do ahead of Monday's town meeting vote, we decided it was prudent for us to do.
So if I may ask that in a different climate, should we okay this having the project? Is the footprint there for the future? Should more units be desirable? Would they be possible in the future based on the footprint of the property and your sense of it?
Well, we're bounded by a wetland. So that's why we went up in height, because we are somewhat limited in terms of moving out on the site. There is some additional developable land that we own, and we can certainly examine that and look at that in the future.
On that site?
But on that site, but for now, we all just would have to be comfortable that it's a 100-unit affordable housing community rather than a 200-unit.
Well, I personally understand how you're kind of playing it safe here, kind of the way we did when we went from bonding to cash. We thought it gave the application a better chance of getting through. You've taken a next step to have the size of it to give it a better chance of getting through. So we have discussion from the board on this matter.
I have a question, if I may, Mr. Chairman. I'm confused as to what we're asking, what's before us. Are we simply withdrawing the article that we had approved previously? Or are we being asked to replace it with a different request?
We're being asked to amend our substitute motion so that it is for the smaller size project and the smaller amount.
But what is the smaller amount? The amount before was 1,000,003, and that was for 6 stories and 200 units.
No, that was,
2.3.
it was 2.3.
Yeah, well, I agree. That's for the second phase, if you include the second phase.
But the
Right.
200
Now,
units was both phases.
Yeah. Well, again, I'm a little confused. Instead of 2 phases, it's going to be a single phase, and it's going to be 3-story building instead of a 6-story building. Is that correct? And we are
Yes.
being asked for how much money for that project?
1.3 million.
Okay, but that was exactly the first phase number, was it not?
Yes.
It was.
And that was for 200 units.
No, that was for 100 units. First phase was 100 units. The second phase would have been another 100.
I see. Okay.
And I believe, John, it's actually was the project was originally 2 6-story buildings.
Yes.
So there was going to be a 6-story building in phase 1 with about 100 units, and then a second 6-story building with 100 units. Now it'll be 1 phase, 2 3-story buildings built at the same time,
I
about
see.
100 units.
And so our 1.3 million is being used to contribute to the same number of subsidized units.
Roughly, it's 1.3 million for about 100 units versus 2.3 million for 200 units.
No, but not
So-
all 200 units were subsidized. I mean,
Yes, they were. All 200 units were going to be affordable
Yeah.
senior housing
I
units.
see. Okay. That answers my question. Thank you.
Another way to think
Other-
of that, we've talked about in the first phase that it was gonna be $11,500 per unit for 200 affordable units.
Yes.
Now it'll be about, I guess, 1,300,000 on 100 would be
About
13,000.
13, yeah.
Maybe a few dollars more if it ends up at 98 units or 96 units.
Yeah.
But it's the 1.3 million for the entire project.
Okay, but in terms of bang for the buck, it's about the same in terms of subsidized
Absolutely.
units. Yeah. That's really where I was going.
And what's the variable for the number of units there? Even that small number between 100 and 98, what's the variable factor there?
We need to sort of continue to work out some of the finances and the amount of money that we might get from the state to leverage the town support.
It'll be a minimum
So
of
that's-
98.
No, so it's gonna be a minimum of probably, it's gonna be somewhere between 96 and 100 units.
Minimum of 96.
Yes,
Because just if we're giving our 1.3, I think we need to have, there's a guaranteed minimum for that number.
yes, it would be a minimum of 96, yes.
Are we highly confident that it's 96, Eb? Because I'd hate to come up at
Yes.
95 and throw the project.
No, we'll get to 96.
Okay,
That figures out to be $13,542 rounded up per unit.
Other comments from the board?
The other thing I was going to ask was that we do the same thing that we did with the other projects that we're recommending and add the phrase to our substitute motion that it is exempt from the sunset bylaw for the same reasons.
When we're ready to make a motion, the person who makes that motion should probably include both of them.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to move that we approve the revised application, which I understand is 1.3 million for no fewer than 96 units, all subsidized, and also add the provision that exempts it from the sunset provision bylaw.
and I'll second that.
Mr. Chair, before you vote that, I have some very specific instructions from the moderator on how this motion needs to be handled. Could I be allowed to speak about that now?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I had a lengthy conversation with the moderator about two things. Can the CPC reduce this article from 2.3 at 200 units to 1.3 at roughly 100 units, I had said. He had some concerns. We spoke with the chair of the finance and the vice chair of the finance committees. Everybody was in agreement that this is not an increase of scope, but a reduction of scope. So that question was answered. The second piece of this that the moderator was insistent on is that we will need to present a substitute motion that is redlined on any language we're removing from it. And it cannot be a substitute motion based on the original substitute motion. It has to be based on the original motion. So through you to Barry Castler, you will have to take the motion that was approved and put into the warrant. We will have to redline out the bonding information on it, add in the cash information. We'll also have to reduce it from 2.3 at 200 units to 1.3, and I would say at a minimum of 96 units to be safe. That is the only way the moderator will accept the substitute motion from the CPC. And I wanted this committee to know that ahead of time because I've already done that homework. And additionally, he'll need that by Thursday at the latest, Barry, so he has a day to work on it. Thank you again, Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Barry, you have your head around that? Barry?
Yes. Yep, I do understand exactly what he's saying and why.
So, and would that be, what Mark has just said, would that be compatible with the motion that John has made and Michael has seconded?
Well, I think that's an administrative matter. It doesn't change the substance of the motion.
Yeah, it is consistent.
Yep.
I would call that very consistent.
Yeah.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded. I will now poll people individually. John Morton,
Just before you start, I just want to make sure that I've got the right motion, that the motion does include adding the language exempting the project from the
Yes.
sunset bylaw.
Yes, yes, it
John,
does.
Okay. Thank you.
John,
Who, are you saying Don or John?
John,
saying,
Anyway, if you're saying me, I vote yes.
Michael,
yes.
John,
Yes.
Larice,
Yes,
Olabunni, Olabunni,
Yes.
He said yes.
Bob,
yeah,
Bob, and the chairman votes yes.
Okay, so that passes by a vote of 7-0. The only other, if there's any emergency business that we haven't discussed yet, now is the time to bring it up.
So in my mind, the issue is only to the preparation for the town meeting articles. When you had said any pictures or documents that we wanted to be shown on the screen should be made available to you by Wednesday. Does that mean Wednesday tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
And short of that, what documents would be going on the screen when Mark begins to present it? I mean, we had some pictures and documents that were in the application. Short of that, what, as of right now, what will be going on the screen, let's say for the barn? Anything?
I believe just the motion, but
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, to you. Generally, if there's no presentation, they just put up the motion at hand, and leave that up. If you had photographs, I believe that the acting town clerk, Samantha Rigo, has asked that we send that information by Wednesday. All applicants should realize they have about 8.5 or so minutes for their presentation, although Q&A, whether they be technical or not, is unlimited. So you can answer a question very thoroughly, but we are limited on the presentation, which is obviously difficult for some of the more complex projects. But it's good for everybody to know that.
So can you just, Barry, review from the order in which the articles will be addressed? Our CPC articles are in what order?
first one will come up, that comes up. Well, I don't know when the budget comes up. That may come up on Wednesday. We have reserved
Might
the
be.
first, here's John Lenahan joining. We have reserved the first spot on Monday for Hebrew Senior Life. However, my guess is, and I'll straighten this out with Bob, Bob the moderator, Bob Mullen. I believe we may have to hear the budget and vote on that before we vote on any of our projects. So if the budget hasn't come up on its own by then, we will move that to the front of the line on Monday, and that will be followed by Hebrew Senior Life.
And then in what order after that?
In the same order that they were presented. Let me just go through it. If you want to give me half a second. Okay, after Hebrew Senior Life will be the West Street Barn. Now, Hebrew Senior Life has reserved the first slot. So if there's other business to take care of that comes earlier in the agenda, we will revert back to that, I would imagine, as opposed to continuing with the other articles, unless someone knows different. Mark may know differently.
So if I may, Mr. Chair, and thank you for hearing me. I believe Barry is correct. We could have an issue if we were to vote a money spending article prior to our budget. So if the budget doesn't get reached on Wednesday, meaning tomorrow evening, I would suggest that Barry, you send an email to Bob Mullen, the moderator, requesting that our budget here be heard before the Hebrew Senior Life project and the reason why. Now, Michael, you and I haven't had a chance to talk about this, so you may have something to say, but we're all kind of feeling so far that if you vote this without the budget, I don't know how that's going to affect things. So
My gut feel, my first reaction is it shouldn't affect it. but I agree that it makes a lot of sense to do the budget first. Just kind of set the pace. In fact, if I wish they would all come in a row, but obviously it made sense to take the time certain for HSL. So yes, I would certainly go along with the recommendation to do the budget first on Monday, followed by HSL if the budget doesn't get completed tomorrow night. And then there may be a delay before we get to the rest of them.
But
So
as we
just-
plan right now, be Hebrew Senior Life, then followed by barn and other things on Wednesday, a week from tomorrow.
We
That's
don't know yet. They may come up on Monday. It depends how far town meeting gets. We had kind of a monkey wrench thrown into the whole process when we had a special town meeting that took up the entire first session of the
correct.
town meeting and put everything a full day behind. So I haven't checked. Mark, do you know what article they're on now?
I do.
15.
The town meeting is technically in the middle of Article 15.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Wednesday night, there are some date certain zoning articles. So what is, I believe, going to happen, having had a conversation with the moderator, is we must finish the article that has been tabled, and that's the budget. After that, we will go into, I believe, 3 different zoning articles, at which point we will pick up at the school committee article, which is Article 16. So it is quite possible, mostly probable, we will not get to Article 18 on Wednesday night, which puts us in a precarious spot because it's better business practice to hear our budget prior to any of our spending articles. And I'm seeing, Biz, you're shaking your head. Do you agree with me on that? Yeah.
Absolutely. I think, the meeting on Wednesday night is going to be a long meeting because there are challenges to a couple of departments. We have 3 departments who are currently on hold and they'll all be done Wednesday night. And it's the police department, sanitation, and the school department.
Yeah.
So I think the school department will be the largest one that we're going to be facing on Wednesday night. And there is a request for certain articles to go first. So I don't think you're going to be getting into anything on Wednesday night. And on Monday, yes, I would definitely present your budget first. You will be going into the Hebrew Senior Life. And because it's going to be, I would, with any luck, we'll get there on Monday. But you have to do your budget first.
Right.
And then when you get to Monday night, my concern, like everybody else's concern, it's up to the voters, but you know how it goes. People are going to have a gazillion questions and why did it change so much? And, people believe in the bait and switch. So
It is possible on my end, being linked to the barn, that it's possible on Monday night, the barn could come at the end.
It's unlikely. It's unlikely, Dwight, but it's possible.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to say the Hebrew Life Center in your budget and the other articles that need to come first. I think we're going to be going into probably June. I think we're going to have another night or 2 to town meeting than what we already anticipate.
Yeah, the reason, Dwight, so we picked a date certain on Hebrew Senior Life. We early on recognized the problem with the budget, which we should have gotten to by now, but we haven't. So when the CPC budget gets done, Hebrew Senior Life get done, then they revert back to Article 19 and go through Articles 19 through 36. It's highly unlikely you're going to have the barn heard on Monday night is the point. I just want you to be prepared for that. That's all.
Right. So it's probably not, but it's a possibility. So I will stay tuned.
Yep.
So the question I have then, do we need to do anything given that HSL right now is date certain for Monday? Do we need
Yes.
to do something tomorrow night to get
Through-
the budget tied to that and be immediate proceeding it?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. Michael, my suggestion will be to have Barry send a letter, an email to the moderator explaining, we're really going to have a hard time voting an article without our budget being voted. So we're asking you to put our budget on Monday night and then HSL. So those will be the first two things that he'll have to accept. I don't know procedurally how he'll handle that. He may ask town meeting to suspend the rules and explain why, or Barry, you may need to, or Michael, one of us will need to explain why. I don't think it'll be a problem with town meeting. I think they'll accept that, but I feel strongly that if we were to vote a spending article prior to the budget, we're going to be sort of caught before the horse.
But should the advice that the budget has to come first come from biz rather than from the CPC? I mean, from us, it's more of a, hey, we think, or should it come from the moderator? I mean, it makes sense to us to do it that way, but I'm not sure. I feel like we should be the ones asking for it, but I just want to resolve that.
I would absolutely request it from the CPC and CC me, and I will answer back, yes, I agree this should be done first.
Good.
How's that?
Okay.
That's
That
a good way.
work?
to
Yeah.
do
Okay,
So a note will go off to the moderator tomorrow for tomorrow night's meeting, and I just don't want to get into a confusing discussion back and forth about, well, they want to change this and that
Yep.
just for them.
well, it makes sense from the logic standpoint. And because so many things have been taken out of order, we need you to be in a consistent range so we can get your budget first, Hebrew Life, and then the moderator could come back and say, all right, let's take everything for CPC now. Or he could come back and say, we're going to continue with the regular article agenda. So that,
He'll go right back
yeah,
to the.
and
regular,
then that's up to his discretion. But if we at least say, yes, I agree, this should come first, you send it, I agree. We'll go to Bob, and I think there'll be the trust factor there that, yes, we do need to do
Yeah,
this.
no, I think that sounds good.
Any other questions on town meeting or anything else?
Who is going to present on behalf of all of these articles?
I will present, we have 10 minutes to introduce every article, so I will take about a minute of that at the beginning, just to give a little bit of background, what the CPC voted and why, how it conforms to the CPA, and turn it over to the presenters of the article, the people who applied for money to us.
Right, so I'll be doing the barn and the historic signs. And then the people, I assume, will be
Now,
lining up.
I'm delighted that Barry Castler is going to be,
Oh,
because
absolutely.
he needs to be seen in town as our sort of spokesman, you know? It's terrific that you're going to be doing that, Barry.
Yes, it is.
He's the department head, John. It makes perfect
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'll try not to take up any more than a minute, because I know we have 10 minutes altogether to make the presentation. So the more time that the actual presenters can make their presentation, the better.
Anything else?
I'm sorry.
That said, I will entertain a
Oh,
motion.
before we do that, I just want to let everybody know that our next regular meeting will be Wednesday, June 5th, the first day of the month.
When do the memberships that expire this year expire?
Well, yours, they expire June 30th, include yours on the Concom expires then, I believe, also.
So
Okay.
you'll still be in play, John, on June 5th, so you better be here.
So I'm a member until June 30.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Expect to see your smiling face on the screen or wherever.
Yeah, you'll regret it.
All right, back to you, Dwight.
All right, do I hear a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there any discussion on that motion? I
I don't hear.
wanted to make a speech in support. That won't take more than 10 minutes.
I'm listening for a certain word here, John, not hearing it.
All right, let's go.
We need
What comes
someone,
after first?
I seconded it
Yes.
already.
Oh, okay, John,
Okay.
thank you.
Hey, there's John
Thank you,
Linehan.
John.
Hello, John Linehan.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us.
the motion has been made and seconded that we adjourn the meeting. I will poll people. Don,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Yeah,
John Morton,
Yes.
John Linehan,
Yeah.
yes.
Michael Barrett,
Yes.
Ola Bundy,
Yes.
Luis.
Yes.
And I think I've gotten everybody, in which case the chairman votes yes as well.
Did you get Bob?
Yeah,
You didn't get me,
Bob,
but I'm a
Deckman?
yes.
He's gotta get used to this.
Good night, all. Happy spring.
Good night. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on short notice, and I really appreciate everyone's cooperation and help on this.
thank you, everybody. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
Good night.